Forget everything they taught you, especially the traditional advice you were handed like a universal roadmap to success. Most of it was designed for a world that doesn't exist anymore. And here's the hard truth. The people who gave you that advice probably meant well, but good intentions don't build high-impact careers or high-performance teams. We were taught to play it safe, to follow the rules, to be polite, to wait our turn, to not ruffle feathers. But when you look at the people who are actually building momentum, the ones leading change or driving real results, none of them got there by doing what everyone else was doing. You were told to go to school, get good grades, land a secure job, and slowly climb the ladder. That path assumes a few things: that industries stay the same, that jobs are secure, that someone will notice your hard work and promote you based on merit. But guess what? Industries evolve or disappear. Companies restructure. Hard work without visibility or direction is just motion, not progress. And the idea that someone will come along and hand you your next opportunity, that's a gamble. The reality is, success isn't handed out based on how well you followed the old playbook. It's earned by people who are willing to question the rules, move faster than the systems built to slow them down, and choose responsibility over comfort. Let's talk about that comfort piece for a second. Traditional advice is rooted in the idea that if you do the right things, you'll be safe. Safety is the currency of conventional thinking. But in business, in leadership, in life, comfort is a trap. When you're too comfortable, you stop growing. You protect what you have instead of reaching for what's possible. Traditional thinking says, don't take too many risks. Don't stand out too much. Don't say something that might make people uncomfortable. But the leaders who actually create impact, they say the thing, they take the risk, they choose discomfort because they know that's where real growth happens. Most people were taught to look for structure and direction outside of themselves. That's another problem. We're taught to wait for a manager to give us a plan, for someone more experienced to guide the way, for permission before taking action. But here's the truth. No one is coming to tell you it's time to step up. If you want a bigger opportunity, you have to lead yourself first. You have to decide to act before you feel ready, because readiness is a byproduct of action, not a prerequisite. Traditional advice doesn't teach you that. It teaches you to stay in the box and ask for the next step. But leadership isn't about boxes. It's about ownership. The people who win today, who actually move the needle, they've unlearned more than they've learned. They've realized that the majority of what they were taught was designed to maintain order, not to help them break through. They've let go of the idea that success is linear, that authority always equals competence, or that experience always trumps hunger. They've embraced the reality that clarity doesn't come from waiting, it comes from movement. And that in a world where everything is changing fast, adaptability will always beat tradition. So what does this mean for you? It means you need to start questioning everything that was positioned as just how things are. If it's not driving results, if it's not building momentum, if it's not creating growth, why are you still holding on to it? Are you following the advice you were given because it's working, or are you following it because it feels safe? You need to get brutally honest about that. Forget the idea that being liked is more important than being effective. Forget the belief that you need more time before you step into leadership. Forget the fear that making a mistake will disqualify you. All of that is noise. The new game isn't about who's the most polished. It's about who's the most proactive. It's about execution, self-awareness, and a relentless ability to adapt. The sooner you can let go of the outdated advice you were given, the sooner you can start building something real, something that actually reflects who you are, how you lead, and the results you're capable of delivering. That's the shift. That's the work. And no one can do it for you. From the time you were a child, you were conditioned to seek approval. Gold stars, grades, praise from teachers, a pat on the back from your boss. It all taught you that success comes from making other people happy. The system rewarded compliance, not creativity. It valued obedience over ownership. And the problem is, if you carry that mindset into your career or leadership journey, you're going to stall out. Because progress, the kind that changes teams, businesses, and your own life, doesn't come from waiting for approval. It comes from action, clarity, and the ability to make decisions before you're told they're okay. Approval is reactive. It puts your sense of worth and direction in someone else's hands. You're constantly looking outward, asking, is this good enough? Do they like me? Am I doing it the right way? And every time you ask those questions, you give away a little bit of your power. You're building your career on feedback loops instead of outcomes. That's dangerous because no matter how well-intentioned the people around you are, their validation can't replace your own judgment. You have to be the one steering the ship. Think about how approval shows up in your day-to-day. Are you holding back on sharing an idea because you're not sure how it'll be received? Do you delay decisions until your manager weighs in even when you know the right answer? Are you spending more time crafting the perfect email than actually solving the problem? All of that is approval-seeking behavior. It feels responsible. It looks like you're being thoughtful or a team player, but often it's just fear wearing a mask, and it's costing you progress. When you prioritize approval, you move slowly. You filter yourself. You become more concerned with optics than outcomes. And worst of all, you start to believe that you're not ready to lead unless someone tells you that you are. That belief alone will keep you stuck for years. Here's the truth. The people who create real momentum don't wait to be chosen. They choose themselves. They decide today that their actions will speak louder than their fears. That's not arrogance, it's ownership. The shift from approval to progress is not about being reckless. It's about being grounded in your values and mission. It's about asking, what outcome am I here to create? Instead of, will they be happy with me if I do this? That small shift in perspective changes everything. It moves you from external motivation to internal drive. It gives you permission to take initiative, to experiment, to lead up, not just follow down. You have to train yourself out of the need for constant reassurance. You have to start making decisions based on what drives results, not what makes people comfortable. This doesn't mean being rude or disregarding feedback. It means you understand that leadership is about accountability, not popularity. It means you're willing to have hard conversations, even if they make you less liked in the moment, because you're not here to be liked. You're here to create impact. And yes, that might feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you've spent years building your identity around being the person who does things right. But let's be honest, has that strategy really gotten you where you want to go? Or has it just kept you in a loop of overthinking and underperforming? You don't need someone else to give you permission to move forward. You don't need every step validated before you take it. What you need is to build trust in yourself. You need to act, reflect, learn, and adjust. That's how real progress is made. That's how confidence is built, not by being told you're good enough, but by proving it to yourself through consistent execution. Letting go of the need for approval is a leadership decision. It's a commitment to move, even when it's messy. It's a willingness to risk being wrong in pursuit of getting better. And the people who do that consistently, they grow faster, they rise higher. They create results that approval seekers only dream of. So the next time you feel yourself hesitating, waiting for a green light that never comes, remember this. You weren't hired to follow. You were hired to contribute, to solve, to lead. Stop asking for permission to be who you already are. Progress doesn't ask, am I allowed? It moves forward anyway. You don't need to be the most qualified. You need to be the most committed. That truth alone can change the way you approach every goal, every role, every leadership opportunity. So many people get stuck because they believe they're not ready. They think they need another degree, another training program, another year of experience before they can really go for it. But what they don't realize is that the people who are moving ahead aren't necessarily more skilled. They're more committed. They show up consistently. They're willing to take ownership before they feel fully prepared. And that commitment is what actually builds momentum. It's easy to point to qualifications. They're neat, they're measurable, they give you a sense of credibility on paper. But qualifications don't mean anything if you're not executing. And a resume can get you in the door, but commitment is what keeps you in the room. It's what drives performance when no one's watching. It's what sets the tone for your team, and it's what creates trust between you and the people you're leading. Most people overestimate how much skill they need to begin and underestimate how much grit they need to keep going. The truth is, skill can be learned, but commitment is a choice. Every day you choose whether you're going to lead with excuses or solutions. You choose whether you're going to do the bare minimum or bring energy to every task. You choose whether you're going to wait for the perfect conditions or start building in imperfect. What really sets you apart is the person who's confident and autonomous, who's committed in action, not emphasis or intensity. This is where the gap is. The people who are the most qualified often rely on their experience. They assume their track record will carry them, emotional intelligence and the willingness to grow. On the other hand, the person who's committed, who's curious, proactive, and focused on outcomes becomes indispensable, not because they know everything, but because they're obsessed with figuring things out. Being committed means you show up when it's hard. You don't hide behind your job description. You lean into challenges. You take feedback seriously, not personally, and you ask better questions. You stay in motion. When you're committed, you don't need to be asked twice. You don't need constant direction. You operate with ownership, and people around you notice. Leaders promote people they trust to execute, not people who have the most credentials. And trust is built through consistency, not credentials. If you're always trying to become more qualified, you're building your confidence on external factors. You're telling yourself, I'll be ready when I have more information, instead of, I'm ready because I'll figure it out. That mindset keeps you small. It gives you an excuse to wait. But commitment, that builds internal confidence. It trains you to handle uncertainty. It teaches you that results are earned, not granted. And it creates a resilience that qualifications alone never will. The people who rise fastest are not the ones with the most perfect backgrounds. They're the ones who get in the room and make themselves valuable. They over-deliver, they outwork, they align themselves with the mission. They don't need permission to go all in. And that creates exponential growth because every challenge becomes an opportunity to prove what they're capable of. If you're constantly comparing yourself to someone who seems more experienced, ask yourself, are they more committed than me? Because that's what actually matters in the long run. Are they doing more with what they have, or are they just more decorated on paper? The person with less experience but more hunger will always outpace the one who's coasting on their resume every time. So stop waiting to feel qualified enough. Start showing up like someone who's already trusted to deliver. Stop trying to earn your place through perfection and start earning it through presence. You don't need to have all the answers. You need to be relentless in your effort to find them. You need to be the one who's willing to stay late, ask better questions, take messy action, and show leadership before it's assigned to you. That's what real commitment looks like. Commitment will take you further than credentials ever will. It creates momentum, builds credibility, and earns you the kind of opportunities that qualifications alone can't buy. Be that person, not the one with the fanciest resume, the one people know they can count on every single time. Rewriting your belief system is your responsibility. No one else can do it for you. And until you take full ownership of the thoughts that drive your behavior, you'll keep repeating patterns that no longer serve you. The way you think about work, leadership, money, relationships, even yourself, was shaped by years of external influence, family, school, culture, past jobs, old managers, maybe even outdated mentors who meant well but didn't operate in the kind of world you're trying to build in now. At some point, you have to stop operating on autopilot and decide which beliefs you're going to keep and which ones you're going to replace. I think most people walk around running on belief systems they never chose. Ideas about what's possible, what's appropriate, what they're allowed to do. If you've ever caught yourself thinking, I could never say that, or that's just not who I am, or people like me don't get those kinds of roles, you're witnessing your belief system in action. And if you never pause to evaluate where those thoughts came from, you'll assume they're facts when they're really just inherited limits. You were taught certain rules that helped you survive, not thrive. You might have grown up in an environment where success looked like security, where playing it safe was considered smart, where being quiet was seen as respectful. But if you're in a space now where you need to lead, grow, and create momentum, those same beliefs will quietly sabotage your progress, not because they're wrong, but because they're outdated. The most dangerous thing about limiting beliefs is that they're subtle. They don't shout. They whisper. They disguise themselves as logic. They hide behind stories like, I'm just not that type of person, or that's just not realistic. But if you want to evolve, you have to start interrogating those stories. Where did they come from? Who taught you that success had to look a certain way? Who said you weren't a leader? Who told you that being ambitious was selfish? And why are you still believing them? Rewriting your belief system starts with awareness. You can't change what you won't confront, so pay attention to your language, your default reactions, your internal narratives. When someone gives you feedback, do you instantly feel attacked, or do you see it as a gift? When you're given an opportunity, do you lean in, or do you freeze and worry that you'll fail? Those aren't just personality traits, those are beliefs in action. Once you become aware of a belief that isn't serving you, you have a choice to make. You can justify it or you can challenge it. You can say, well, this is just the way I am. Or you can say, this is how I've been, but it's not how I have to stay. That's where the shift happens. Not in the giant, dramatic life overhaul, but in the quiet, intentional decision to think differently over and over again. And let's be clear, this isn't about toxic positivity or pretending everything's great. Rewriting your belief system doesn't mean lying to yourself. It means being honest about what you want and then choosing beliefs that actually support getting there. If you want to be a leader, you have to stop telling yourself you're not ready. If you want to grow your business, you have to stop believing that sales is sleazy. If you want to earn more, you have to stop thinking that money is bad or greedy. Beliefs shape behavior, behavior shapes outcomes. So if your outcomes aren't changing, it's not a strategy issue, it's a belief issue. You can read every book, take every course, hire every coach, but if your internal dialogue is still rooted in fear, scarcity, or self-doubt, you'll sabotage your own growth. You'll shrink your ambition to match your comfort zone. And that's a tragedy because your comfort zone was never meant to define your potential. It was meant to be challenged. Taking responsibility for your beliefs is not a one-time decision. It's a daily discipline. It's recognizing when you're falling back into old mental patterns and choosing to rewrite them with something more useful. It's understanding that mindset isn't just fluff, it's the foundation. Because if you don't believe you can lead or scale or influence, you won't even try. Or worse, you'll try, but you'll quit the second it gets hard. So don't wait for someone else to tell you what's possible. Don't outsource your mindset to your past. You are the author now, and you get to decide what kind of leader, creator, or contributor you want to become. The only question is, are you willing to unlearn what's no longer useful and replace it with something that moves you forward? Because that choice, the choice to rewrite what you believe, is entirely yours. In most environments, people are taught to follow rules, show up on time, don't challenge authority, do things the way they've always been done. These rules create structure, and structure can be useful, but when rules become the goal instead of the tool, they get in the way. They slow down progress. They kill creativity. They make people focus on compliance over contribution. And if you're serious about growth, personal, professional, or organizational, you need to shift from rule following to result driving. That means you stop asking, am I doing it right? And start asking, is this working? Rules exist to manage average performance. They help keep things predictable, but results are what move the needle. Results are what get noticed, what build trust, what grow companies, and what transform careers. The people who create real value are the ones who understand the difference. They know that rules can be helpful, but they don't let them become cages. They operate with discipline, yes, but it's self-discipline, not blind obedience. Their goal isn't to look like they're doing the job. Their goal is to deliver outcomes that matter. If you're still relying on rules to feel successful, you're probably playing too small. You might be busy, but are you effective? Are you checking boxes or are you solving problems? There's a big difference. Some people follow every procedure perfectly and still fall short of what the business needs. Others challenge the process, take ownership, and generate results, sometimes without being asked. Those are the people who get promoted, who build strong teams, who earn trust, not because they follow the playbook, but because they create value. Letting go of rules doesn't mean chaos. It means clarity. When you focus on results, you start measuring the right things, not just how long you worked or how many meetings you joined or how well you followed instructions, but what changed because of your actions. Did you move the project forward? Did you generate revenue? Did your team improve? People who are focused on rules tend to hide behind them. That's not in my job description. I followed the process exactly. I didn't want to step on anyone's toes. But those aren't leadership responses. Those are avoidance strategies. They keep you safe, but they also keep you stagnant. If you want to grow, you have to stop hiding behind policies and start owning your outcomes. You have to be willing to ask, what is the result we're actually here to create? And how can I make that happen, even if it means doing things differently? This mindset shift also affects how you lead others. Managers who lead by rules create teams that play it safe. Managers who lead by results create teams that take initiative. When you empower people to think in terms of outcomes, they become problem solvers instead of task runners. They stop waiting for permission, they start using their judgment, and the team gets stronger, faster, and more aligned because everyone is focused on the same goal, not just their individual piece of the process. The truth is, in fast-paced environments, rules get outdated quickly. What worked 6 months ago might not work today. If you're too attached to how things have always been done, you'll miss opportunities. You'll fall behind. High performers are constantly evaluating what's working, what's not, and what needs to change. That evaluation doesn't require a new policy. It requires a mindset that prioritizes results over routine. You have to be willing to disappoint people who are attached to the old way, especially if you're pushing for a better way. Not everyone will understand when you start focusing more on results than rules. Some people will say you're being too aggressive, too bold, too unorthodox. Let them. Because the people who create change are rarely the ones who color inside the lines, who take initiative, who lead with purpose. And if you're someone who's naturally drawn to structure, here's the nuance. Systems are not the enemy. Rules are not the enemy, but they should never be the ceiling. They should be the foundation you build on. Use structure to support outcomes, not to avoid accountability. Measure yourself and your team not by how well you comply, but by how effectively you execute. So ask yourself, am I here to follow or am I here to lead? Am I focused on doing things right or on getting the right things done? Because rules might help you look competent, but results, they prove you are. And in a world that rewards impact, that's the difference between being replaceable and being essential.